Hi Jillian, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Sarah? Thanks for having me on.
Good. It's really, really great to have you here. I'm pleased to welcome you to the School of Balance. Thank you for making time for this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. So, firstly, I just wondered if you'd be able to start by telling everybody who might not know who you are a little bit about yourself. And it might also be worth explaining what an ND is because we don't have quite the same thing in the UK. And it's a bit unusual, the sort of thing that you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Jillian Teta. I am a medically trained naturopathic doctor, and I'm an author and an entrepreneur. So what a naturopathic doctor is, and you're exactly right, this is not a well-known designation at all. I am a graduate of one of 5 schools in the United States, medical schools that are accredited to train primary care docs in complementary and integrative medicine. So it's a 4-year postgraduate medical school. We have our licensing exams, we have residencies, the whole 9 yards. But in addition to our basic and clinical and diagnostic training, we're also trained in things like exercise and nutrition and herbs and supplements. And we have more tools in our toolbox besides drugs, procedures, and surgery. So it's not that we're against those things. We actually are quite conventionally trained. It's just often there's so many things that we can do in our day-to-day life to help ourselves that those drugs, procedures, and surgeries can become the alternatives.
So you sort of end up getting the best of both worlds and maybe you look more at prevention rather than cure first.
Yes, we do get the best of both worlds because you get the lifestyle piece and then you can also have the medication piece if you need it as well. Absolutely. And prevention is a huge piece of what we do, but also we look at the body as more of an integrated whole instead of just a set of like linear, discrete systems that are separate from one another. We look at the body sort of like an orchestra, and one stand of instruments can't be out of tune without that affecting the entire performance. So we look at the body very much in that way.
No, that's really, really interesting because I think traditional medicine, you go to one doctor if you've got a problem with your head, another one if you've got a problem with your GI system, and nobody really pieces those bits together and looks at the whole.
Exactly. And really you can't pull on one string without affecting the whole, so for sure.
But I think your specialism is particularly around digestive issues.
Yes, I have over the years managed to become more and more specialized in gastrointestinal issues simply because that initially was what showed up at my clinic. I completely underestimated while I was in school the amount of people with GI distress.
I can imagine. I think there's more and more people. I think it's something that people don't like to talk about, but there are an awful lot of people out there.
There are. In the U.S. alone, we spent $85 billion on over-the-counter and prescription, like digestive aid medications. And you're right. I mean, no one wants to, I write a lot about this, like in my blog posts and stuff, like, no one you're not at a cocktail party and like talking about your gas, there's just not a lot of people. It's not like polite conversation that people want to talk about, but it's funny because it is so prevalent. But yet no one wants to talk about it at all.
Wow. So given that people don't want to talk about it,
Yeah.
what would your sort of key recommendations or steps be to improving digestive health?
That's a great question. Yeah. This is, we could do like a 2-day seminar on this, but really my approach to digestion goes a little bit something like this. First of all, you have to be eating a diet that's appropriate for you and your body. And we have to understand and make it really clear that everybody's body is different. Like we are all as different on the inside as we look on the outside. So there are people in your life that are going to be able to eat certain foods that maybe you can't eat. The diet that's appropriate for you is not going to necessarily be appropriate for someone else. So understanding your own unique sensitivities is key in digestive health. Another issue is how we eat. We live in such a fast-paced, get it done, do it faster, it's done yesterday, it was supposed to be done yesterday society that most people don't even sit down to eat for a meal anymore. We're constantly eating on the run. So I tell people, sit down when you eat, chew slowly, eat slowly. don't talk with your mouth full of food. Basically mind your table manners. Another major aspect in maintaining digestive health is making sure that you have the ability to actually digest your food through the use of digestive enzymes, stomach acid, bile, so on and so forth. The next is making sure you don't have some pathogenic infection. You want to make sure that the integrity of your whole GI system is intact, and then you want to make sure that you're not stressed out all the time. And we're stressed out all the time, that actually really suppresses the branch of the nervous system that is responsible for good digestive function, which is called the rest and digest branch, or the parasympathetic branch. So I know that's a lot, but those are the foundations, the concrete steps for good digestive health.
No, that's great. That's brilliant. That's a really good starting point. And at what point do you think you should go and seek the assistance of your doctor or your conventional doctor and seek further medical assistance or tests? Is this the sort of thing you should do at home on your own, or do you need to go and seek help?
I think it depends on your symptoms. So if you've been experiencing any type of symptoms and they're not getting better within several weeks, and you've never been evaluated for a GI condition or for GI symptoms, you probably do want to have an initial, touching base with your doctor just to make sure that there's not anything major going on. There are a wide variety of both conventional and then sort of unconventional or more functional tests to evaluate gastrointestinal function. Things like comprehensive stool digestive analysis, things like testing for yeast overgrowth in the stool, testing for intestinal hyperpermeability or leaky gut. So there's actually a lot that you can do and test for, both with and without your doctor. Nice. But the standard sort of party line is, always talk to your doctor first. I kind of have to say that, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's worth checking there's nothing really serious going on as well.
It sure is. It sure is.
And what would you advise if you've got a bit of a traditional doctor that perhaps doesn't understand the alternative approach? I know in the UK with the NHS, we'd always go to our GP first, and right. I think some of those wouldn't have even heard of, say, leaky gut or something like that, and it'd look at you as though you're a little bit crazy if you went in and started asking for some of these tests.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I just posted a blog kind of about this subject and got a lot of fire and heat from it. Here's the issue. Conventional medical practice, your day-to-day practice, when you're going to your doctor and your doctor's clinical recommendations, they're decades behind the cutting edge, okay? So when doctors hear things like leaky gut and they've maybe heard their colleague be like, oh, that's just a bunch of bunk, they are highly skeptical and dismissive of it, in spite of establishment of the phenomenon in the medical research that anybody can go up and look up. So all of the research is there. So and I think it's totally normal and great to be skeptical. I think we run into a real problem, though, when skepticism turns into denial and categorical dismissal. So how I would recommend approaching your doctor would be to list out all of your symptoms, all of your concerns, and then you can present it in a way like, I've been doing some reading, or I've been hearing about this, and this is what I'm thinking about. Here's the evidence for these things. What do you think? Can you help me? Mm-hmm. Appealing to the sort of humanity of people, and, putting in a way of, can you help me? And if they're dismissive of you, that's not a healer. That's not someone who has your best interest at heart. Someone who has your best interest at heart is never going to try to humiliate you or sort of talk down to you or be dismissive of you. So in that case, you can go shopping for somebody else. I'm not sure if that fully answers the question, but when you are talking to someone about a concept that they might not be familiar with, it's best to do it just like in an objective, here's the facts, sort of non-emotional way.
No, I think that's really helpful. I think that you can't really expect any doctor to have kept current, a general doctor anyway, to have kept current with every single bit of cutting edge latest medical research. However, if you do present the evidence to them and you have done the research, they should at least be open to considering it, shouldn't they? And I guess if they're not, that might be when you're looking to seek a second opinion.
$40 to $60 people a day. So it's really hard for them. They get their information from pharmaceutical reps, unfortunately, and that's just the way that it is here in the U.S. And that's not to say that all of them do. There's plenty that keep up on the research and things, but it's definitely a problem. The docs here, and I'm sure the docs there, they're really overworked big time, and they don't have time. And then when you get overworked like that, it's easier to get in a mind state where you can just be dismissive because you're just in the grind. You're just doing the thing. You're trying to keep people alive. You're trying not to make major mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly the same here. And I think as a result of that, the sort of common diagnosis with any kind of digestive health issues is you've got IBS. I think there's a rising number of people, I've got friends whose doctors have said to them, you've got IBS, you just need to maybe take some IBS tablets if it's really bad, and that's pretty much the end of the advice they're given. What are your views on this? Is it a diagnosis and that's that? Is it a condition that we should just put up with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So IBS is a diagnosis of exclusion, which means IBS is it's not cancer. It's not something anatomical. It's not something that can be conducted on a blood test. It's not something that you can see in the blood test. It's not something you can see on a colonoscopy or any other type of diagnostic measure. So basically what the doctors are doing is they're looking for other things. Could it be inflammatory bowel disease? Is it celiac disease? Is it something else? And if they can't find anything else, any other cause for the symptoms, they're going to call it IBS. Now, IBS in and of itself is very multi-textured and multifactorial. And the research shows this. For some people, IBS masquerades as food sensitivities. So when they eliminate certain foods, whether it's FODMAPs, which is fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, symptoms might improve. Or if they go gluten-free, symptoms might improve. So food sensitivities is a major consideration. Also, in IBS, there's a strong body of research that suggests that a central component of IBS is something called dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of our beneficial healthy bacteria to potentially pathogenic opportunistic bacteria, yeast, fungus, parasites, so on and so forth. So this dysbiosis of imbalance of the good to the bad guys, that can create a higher than normal level of inflammation in the gut. Dysbiosis can also manifest as something called small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which is just bacteria in the wrong place, whether they are harmful or pathogenic, their location makes them more harmful. Another enormous consideration with IBS is the gut-brain axis. How we stress, how we think, how we exercise. Our nervous system has great impact into how our bowel functions. There's also hormonal considerations. Women have the diagnosis of IBS much more readily than men do. So there are a lot of things to think about when we are talking about IBS. And in terms of the cost of IBS, the amount of time that is spent out of work or on medications, it's huge and it's skyrocketing. And you're right, it is, the levels of diagnosis of IBS are exponentially increasing. And I think that has a lot to do with the world that we live in, the quality of the food that we're eating, pressing society that we live in that's just focused on go, go, go and no decompression, no downtime. If you like to relax, you're considered lazy.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, IBS is not a cut and dry issue. There's a lot of layers there is sort of the bottom line. And actually my next book I think is going to be on IBS specifically.
No, I think that will be of a lot of interest to a lot of people.
I think so too. I cover IBS has a whole chapter in my book here, but I think I need to do a whole book on IBS.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you mentioned there around the impact of the brain on the gut. That's something that I've become more aware of, but I've not actually seen too much about it before that. So what do you recommend in terms of exercise and relaxation in terms of digestive health?
Well, the digestive system loves restorative activities. And that means sort of by default that activities that are overly long and arduous, like chronic distance running or chronic aerobic cardiovascular disease, cardiovascular exercise, excuse me. This would be things like, running, cycling, jogging, those types of things. If you are running miles and miles and miles every week, or hours and hours and hours, doing hours and hours of aerobic activity, what that does is that raises certain stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. If those levels are higher than what the sort of normal baseline should be over time, that can begin to overpower the rest and digest branch of the nervous system. So in terms of thinking about ways to exercise, of how to blunt that, you want exercise to either be slow and leisurely, like a leisure walk. One of my favorite things is just walking in the woods, walking outside, yoga, restorative yoga, tai chi, meditation, things like that. Or it likes exercise that's sort of short and hard, like sprint training, like intervals, like a 20-minute weight workout session. Those types of activities are going to be better not only for digestion, but also, frankly, for fat loss.
Win-win then.
Win-win. And takes a lot less time than sitting on the treadmill for an hour.
And there's nothing worse than a treadmill, let's face it.
You're right, there's nothing worse than a treadmill, period.
Well, not in terms of exercise, anyway. Well, no, that's absolutely brilliant. So you mentioned your book. When is that out? And I guess people can get it from Amazon?
Yes, so it's hitting shelves May 6th. It is available for pre-order now. It's called Natural Solutions for Digestive Health. It's being released by Sterling Publishing. And I actually just got an email today from Amazon saying that they were shipping the book out this month between the 24th and 28th. So people that have pre-ordered it are actually going to get it before it hits the shelves on May 6th. So that's kind of exciting.
That's very exciting.
So if you want it sooner than later, go ahead to Amazon. Natural Solutions for Digestive Health.
Oh, that's brilliant. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. It's crazy. It's really weird, but yeah.
I guess you probably finished it up quite some time ago as well, so it seems quite strange it's all happening now.
The book was due May of 2013.
There you go then, a whole year later.
Yeah, but then you go into the editorial process. So we finished edits, I think, in January.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's excellent. I'll definitely be pre-ordering that to get my copy.
Oh, thanks, Sarah.
Okay, and sort of what we tend to do with these is do a quick fire round just to get to know a little bit more about you. So are you up for that?
Yeah, I like that. Okay, shoot away, fire away.
Brilliant. So what's your favourite vegetable?
Oh, broccoli.
Wow, good one. How about the last book you read?
The last book I read was called Flight Behavior by Barbara Kingsolver. She's one of my favorite novelists. It was actually, it's a fictional story, but it was based on climate change, and it was about butterflies. It was just amazing. Her language is just incredible. Fantastic. I highly recommend it.
And your favorite relaxing or restorative activity?
I actually alluded to a little earlier. I love walking in the woods with my dogs or by myself. I love walking in the woods. Even as a child, I did that. I remember doing that with my aunt and my mother when I was little, and I still love it.
Fantastic. Apart from your own, how about your favorite online blog or podcast?
Can I recommend JillFit? I mean, JillFit is probably my favorite blog ever.
Yeah, of course you can. And your favorite treat, food, or drink?
Oh, all the things that I would consider treats are like part of my normal diet, like bacon and cookie dough bread and things like that. But what I would say is Alana Amsterdam, she has the Alana's Pantry blog. She has a recipe for paleo chocolate chip cookies. And I'm gluten-free. I've been gluten-free for a couple of years now, and I really used to just love raw cookie dough out of the tube. I know it's so disgusting, but I loved it. But it had been years since I had had cookie dough, and so this recipe that she has is awesome, and I eat it raw. I don't even bake it, but it's just her paleo chocolate chip cookies. They're amazing.
There you
So
go then.
that would be that.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. I like that. I'll have to look that up then.
It's good. Her blog is incredible. I'd recommend her blog too, for sure. But it's it's recipes. It's a lot of recipes.
Yep. No, that's great. Well, it's been lovely to speak to you today. So I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to just finish up with, but other than that, if you'd be able to just let people know where they can find you, where they can find your blog, find you on Twitter, Facebook, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I would just like to thank you again and thank all the listeners for listening in. You can find me at fixyourdigestion.com. That's my blog. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/fixyourdigestion. And then I'm on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is at Jillian Teta.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jillian. And everybody get out and pre-order Jillian's book.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.